Did they just spend all this time going after the wrong dude? Welcome back to my updates on the YSL/Young Thug trial that's happening down here in Atlanta. And yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm not involved in the case. I'm not on the jury. I'm not an attorney. But I am just some old white suburban lady looking in from the outside. And it kind of looks to me like they screwed the pooch. This is one of those situations where you grease the wheels a little bit, right? You're going for the big fish. And in this case, they thought the big fish was Young Thug, who's a rapper here in Atlanta. They fashioned him to be like a gaudy-esque mob leader type, leading this, crazy criminal street gang and elevating the streets to a level of violence that nobody ever seen before. And their belief was that he was just sort of like, I guess, Jedi mind tricking his little disciples into going and committing crimes on his behalf. Now, the Fulton County District Attorney, they start really big, right? They indict, originally there was 28 people indicted. There was a 56 count RICO indictment. Yeah, it was pretty ugly. Most of the people pled down because they didn't want to run the risk of those RICO charges. That carries 5 to 20 here in Georgia. So a lot of them took pleas, except for Young Thug and 5 co-defendants. Now, Young Thug himself is facing, I think it's 6 or 7 other felonies that have to do with gun possession, drug possession, like all these other things. So what they're accusing him of is a lot of really, really big shit. And they need a key witness to try to rat him out. They need somebody who's run with this group to try to flip on them. Now, keep in mind, Young Thug and the co-defendants have all been in jail this entire time. This is one of the biggest cases that's ever been tried in Georgia, and it was the longest ever jury process. To select a jury, it took, I think, 10 months. So it's been 2 years that these defendants, have been in jail. And some of them are in Fulton, which is on its best day, one step better than actual hell. And they're willing to go through that because they insist that they didn't do what the district attorney is saying that they did. Now, there are multiple accusations, right? Apparently, they think that this YSL is a street gang and they were involved in this a gang rivalry with If Gang and the two, drive-by shootings and all kinds of nasty stuff. So I get it. This is not an easy thing to try. There are a lot of ups and downs. But the problem that they had was the minute they put Kenneth Copeland on the stand. Now, Kenneth Copeland, he's known as Lil Woody. So if you don't follow, and I did call him Woody in a previous video, but I understand it's Woody. So I'm going to try and correct that this time around. So Woody takes the stand, and it goes without saying he's a hostile witness. He tries to get out of testifying. He tries to plead the fifth. They had to plead. They had to threaten. They had to do everything they could. I think they even threw him in jail for a couple of days, get him back up on the stand. And he turns out to be a pretty shitty prosecution witness because he's just fucking lying every single time he turns around. And then, by the way, because they gave him immunity, because remember, he's the little fish and they're trying to get him to rat out the big fish. So they get this guy up on the stand, and every time they're asking questions, he keeps turning to the judge and he goes, "Are you sure I won't get in trouble?" And the judge goes, "No, go ahead. You have immunity." Bleh. This guy fucking fessed to everything. He's not allowed. They've threatened him and told him that he'll go back to jail if he mentions anything about his involvement in the unaliving of Donovan Nut Thomas, who is the rival gang person who has died. So he's not allowed to talk about that, even though we all know he was there that night. But I think the idea is they're trying to get Kenneth Copeland to say that everything he did was because Young Thug was either with him or told him to do it or provided the means, the method, whatever for him to do it. But then out of nowhere, Woody says something like, "Oh no, that was me and Threat. We went and we shot up Rich Homie Quan's daddy's barbershop." He just fessed, like we did not know that he had done that. And you can't help but wonder how he got immunity for all of this. And the trick is that he fucking pulled one over on all of the cops and the district attorneys. When they came after him for these crimes, he started singing. But what he was singing about was not actual real live stuff. In fact, he told the police story after story after story. He blamed everybody else, rolled over on everybody else, made it seem like he was the golden angel of the group and that everybody else was the bad guy. The police thought they had their witness. They thought this guy was going to get up on the stand and fucking rat everybody out and they would get the big fish. But it turns out, he's telling stories about Lil Mike and Quez, and he's making up out of whole cloth to the police these stories about guys that don't even exist. And the shocking part is that the police want to believe his story. They want to get him to testify, and they want to nail Young Thug so bad that they don't even bother to go check and see if Lil Mike and Quez even exist. You got a book this fucking thick of every single, who you presume are gang members. Just go look it up. And they never did. They never ran down these imaginary people. So Woody made them all look incredibly foolish. But the best part is when Max Shard, who's one of the defense attorneys, so Brian Steele has a chance to start cross-examination on Woody. And then this Max Shard steps up to the plate, and this guy hit it out of the park. He's basically saying all of these things to Woody. He's like, let me get this straight, Woody. So you were the one that had a problem with Donovan Thomas. You were the one that got jumped at Club Crucial by members of IFGang. You and Threat were the ones that shot up Rich Homie Quan's daddy's barbershop. You were the one that stole Nut's chain, that chain that he loved with the Mr. Peanut Man on it. Believe me, there's a whole story there. You stole his chain. You were there when there was the drive-by shooting at the studio. And you were in possession of the gray Infiniti that was being driven the night that Donovan Thomas was unalived. So it may have been Woody who did all of this and not Young Thug. And that was what was left with the jury for a 4-day long weekend. They get to go home and they get to think as the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in their wildly over-exaggerated attempt to get Young Thug and a bunch of other people that they think are his street gang off the streets. Did they make a deal with the devil? Did they let this what they thought was a little fish go to get the big fish and realized, holy fuck, that's the big fish. This guy is the big fish. I can't imagine how the jury finds these guys guilty. I just can't. But they're back in court this week, and we'll see how it goes.